Alberta is covered by these 3 treaties. The first page of each of the treaties say words like, we the First Nations hereby forever cede, transfer, assign, bequeath, surrender, all our right and title to all of the lands within the territory, in return for a whole bunch of things: traditional hunting rights, education, healthcare, agricultural implements, a whole list of things, which is fine in my view. When the treaties were formed, reserves were set up. There's 48, I believe, First Nation reserves in Alberta. And those reserves are little enclaves, and we've all driven through them. There's some close to here. And the land within a reserve is owned by the federal government in every reserve. And the affairs of the First Nations are administered by Ottawa under the Indian Act. First Nations, because of the treaty, there was a treaty signed in 1700 that applies, that gives First Nations the right to freely travel across international boundaries. So if you know any First Nations and they have a treaty card, they don't need a passport to get into the US. They just show up at the border, show their treaty card, and away they go. So if Alberta becomes independent, one of the options for the First Nations is status quo. One of the options for the First Nations is that they just carry on like before. Their land will continue, their little enclaves will continue to be owned by Ottawa. They'll continue to have their affairs administered by under the Indian Act by Ottawa, and they'll be able to travel freely in the new country of Alberta, just like they're able to travel freely across international borders right now. Nothing changes. There's no need to ask them for consent, because we're not changing anything. They'll still have their traditional hunting rights, and trapping and so on, and fishing. Another option the First Nations will have, and each individual First Nation will have this choice, is they may say, Ottawa hasn't been that good for us, we'd like to try you guys. So they may say we want Edmonton to administer the treaties instead. A third option for any one of the First Nations would be to say, these things were negotiated in the 1800s, it's 2026, let's try and negotiate a new deal. But you see here, where's the threat to the First Nations? They can have the status quo, or they themselves can decide to make changes. So all of this rhetoric about First Nations having a veto, oh, you can't transfer the land because the First Nations agreement was with the Crown, it's all patent nonsense. There's no basis for it in law whatsoever. So if someone says, oh, the First Nations can block it, it's pure nonsense. Next one is, I love this one.